Okay, this is another episode of Geeks and Ghosts, and we have a special guest with us tonight. I mean, this is the second time in a row that we've done this. I don't know what kind of streak we're on, because we're used to just being two idiots talking to each other. But we have tonight Mellanie Cadwell of Military Veterans Paranormal, and she just recently did a awesome charity event that I'm going to let her tell you about briefly. So I'm going to put you on the spot and let you talk. So if you don't mind, I mean, you did send me a bio, but it was on my phone and my phone just died, so I can't read it. So I'm going to make you talk about yourself because I know you love it. I know you love it. And on the side note, Lou is here, but he's having technical difficulties, so we might hear from him, we might not. But it's okay. I can handle the show. So, Mellanie, tell us about yourself and your group, and then we'll get into the event that you did.
Well, I'm from Los Angeles. I'm a UCLA Bruin alumni, and just to circumvent everything, I did send you a picture of my actual diploma that hangs on my wall, just to prove that, yes, I did go to UCLA.
I can make one of those too.
Nice, but I have my tassel and my commencement tickets in there.
Okay.
So, but let's see here. I was a journalist for several years, and then I kind of resigned because I wanted to start my family, and enlisted in the Army. My family has a very long military history. This was the only war in U.S. history that we did not have a family member in. So I enlisted, and I enlisted as a combat veteran, or as a combat medic, and I deployed to Iraq, came back, finished out my second enlistment, and I was just recently medically retired. I was injured, and so unfortunately my injuries will never heal.
What happened, if you don't mind my asking? You can tell me to shut up.
Yeah, it's something I just don't like
Okay,
talking
no
about,
problem. No problem.
I did hurt my knees, and my neck was injured kind of bad. And any medic, any combat medic, line medic that deploys, or anyone that works in a trauma bay, they're going to come back with nightmares. And so it was kind of rough for me for a while. Okay. My team, Military Veterans Paranormal, we are really unique because we're all military. In order to be a member, I have to, if you're a veteran, I have to see what's called the DD-214. I need proof of service, and I need to see that it was an honorable discharge. It's the only people we take. And also for active duty service members, because we do have a couple, I look at their ID cards. I also find out which unit they're in, have their entire chain of command, and everybody that's on the team, they all agree to, I run a criminal background check on.
Good.
So
good. That's important. Yeah. And that's it?
Well, we
What's your team's philosophy?
Our philosophy, you know what, here's the thing. I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you. Can I say that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. See, this is our own show. We record this. We put it on YouTube, and we don't have any rules, so we can go as long as we want. We can say whatever the fuck we want.
Okay, good.
So,
yeah.
Hey, there's Lou.
Yay. I'm not going to sit
Still working on the problems. I'm still working on the problems, but I'm listening.
Okay.
Go
ahead. I'm not going to sit there and say we take a scientific approach, because I think that's a bunch of bullshit. We do use technology involved in our investigations, but we do a lot of training. The way we approach every investigation is just like we do a military mission. And our goal is essentially to obtain data for research and try and, we're all searching for some kind of answers. The difference between my team is that we're not going to take a bullshit answer. If we can't see it, if you can't quantify it, I'm sorry, we can't count it. So with that, there's also a lot of research that we do. We apply a lot of the skills that we've learned in the military to what we do. We've got medics and nurses. So we do look at medications. How do those affect things? You know, everything from mental health issues to what people are eating can affect the way that their mind is working. At the same time, we have commo dudes. We've got a lot of IT guys. So we take what the military paid us to learn, and we apply it to this.
Nice. Cool. And that sounds good. I mean, we've talked often, going back and forth and just discussing ideas and ways to approach things and stuff. So, I mean, I love the way you work. I've seen examples of your work, like especially your research, and that's a big deal with me. I mean, I posted something today about it. Like, research is a big deal. You know, you can't just go into a place and take stories at face value. You can't just accept what someone tells you. You need to research it, and not only the history, but the claims and the details and the people involved. You need to research that, and most people do just like real light surface value kind of research, where, you know, if you can't Google it within 5 minutes, they don't care about it.
Right.
And I've seen samples of your stuff, of your work, and it's extremely detailed, and like, it's amazing. It makes me think like, my work is shit next to this.
No. You know, one of the things though is that, you know, I have a background in research as a history major, and then afterwards, you know, working towards, you know, my master's, and then working in the press, and then also I'm a real nosy bitch. So, but at the same time, I know that, you know, I'm not going to take anything at face value.
Right.
Anybody can go on the internet and they can say, oh, I did do my research because they looked at page 1, page 2, and page 3. The problem with that is, if you look at the vernacular of what's being used as the research and the stories, you will see that the vernacular is the same, which means that it's all starting to generate from one particular source. And if you come across 2 or 3 articles or 2 or 3 things, and they're all saying the same thing with the same story, then you know that there's a red flag there. They got it from the same source. Right. And they basically plagiarized intellectual property or somebody's story. So I don't do that. I do PVA pulls. I'll pull the deeds. I go to the library. I conduct actual interviews. I also know how to look for keywords and key names. And from there, I start digging into databases and research. I spend hours at historical societies, libraries. Obviously, you know, I still have some friends in the press that can pull certain prints for me, so I don't have to pay out the yin yang.
Always nice.
But I mean, it's not something. If anybody sits there and says, "Oh yeah, I've just spent the last couple of weeks researching this," I'll tell them that, well, you know what, you didn't do enough, because I guarantee you, I can go and I can find something else.
I like your attitude, woman. That's awesome.
Is, ducks have to be in a row.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree. And it's, I mean, part of the way I investigate, I always refer to myself as like the Scooby-Doo method. I'm always looking into all the clues and trying to put the pieces together. And it's amazing what you find with just a little bit of research. You know, a little bit of hard work. And suddenly the grand stories that everybody knows suddenly fall apart. And you really find the true nature of what's going on.
You have to look at the way people, and what it is that people say. For example, out here, you know, if you look on a lot of these haunted areas, Oak Grove, Kentucky, they have this place called Ghost Bridge, Carter Bridge, the infamous Ghost Bridge. I honestly believe that any town that has a bridge, that's a ghost bridge. But that's what
we have a couple here, yes.
So I've been hearing the same stories for, you know, forever, and around here it's been going on for about a good 10, 12 years. But I started noticing all the stories were the same. It's almost like Octagon Hall. Every single story said the exact same thing, and I thought there's got to be more to it than that.
Right.
After a couple months of digging, I found the source of the story. And he's full of shit. And he admitted he was wrong.
Wow.
And he admitted that, well, you know, I speculated this and I speculated that. And I was like, oh. And I also found where the real bridge happened, that somebody actually had a similar incident in 1846. And I also spoke to the guy who's lived by the bridge for 74 freaking years. Yeah, I think if somebody would have like killed his pregnant wife and thrown over the bridge, kind of would have known.
Yeah.
Especially when you walk out the front door, there's the freaking bridge.
And that's the kind of research I love. I mean, I really love figuring out. I have a vast library. I have a huge library for someone that has just a private home.
And he never reads any one of those books.
Shut
Never read any of
up.
those books.
I've read almost like 5% of them.
Yeah.
But actually, the ones that I have read, I have an entire shelf of nothing but regional ghost story books.
Uh-huh.
So everywhere I've traveled over the years, I've always gone to the bookstore and picked up like the local ghost story books. Because that's just, I mean, I love the classic ghost stories. I still enjoy them, you know, even though I pick them apart sometimes. So I always pick them up. And I usually, before I leave, I've read the entire book because I want to see what's in the area. You know, and I do the same thing. If a story catches my interest and I know I'm going to be in the area, I'll research it and figure out, you know, is this true? Are the stories valid? You know, is it worth going out there? So, I mean, I don't say this much, but I applaud your efforts because I really do, what's the word? Respect how you go about things.
Well, I don't go into, and someone actually asked me this, well, why are you in this if you're always out to debunk something or prove it wrong?
I get that a lot.
First off, I hate that word. I don't go to debunk anything. I go to find the truth and find a logical or plausible explanation. When it comes to history, there is nothing that irks me more than someone who regurgitates false history.
Yes.
And I use the term regurgitate because to me it's nothing more than puke. You either tell the truth or say nothing at all. So a lot of times when I hear these stories, it's not that I want to go out and I want to prove it wrong. No, it's I need to know for myself. Show me the facts.
Right.
What proof do you have? Now, when it comes to like the investigation side, it's almost like medicine. When you go to the doctor and something's wrong, the doctor doesn't say, okay, well, this is it, and so we're going to treat it as such. No, the way a doctor does is he takes everything else to rule out all other possibilities to narrow in on the actual diagnosis. And that's the way I look at it. I'll hear all of these claims. So I need to look at all of these claims. Because if I can eliminate all of these claims, well, what's left?
Nice.
And so it's just like medicine, and that's how we work. We don't go in purposely to say, this isn't true and I'm going to prove it to you. We go in objectively, both ways. Nice.
I like that. So, I guess that is a great segue into your event that happened. Now tell me, this was you organized a ghost hunt. Like an investigation. You organized a paranormal investigation as a charity event.
Yes.
So tell us about that. I don't know how far back you want to go in what happened with organizing it. That's up to you. I already know the story, but you can tell me what you want about that. But folks, I would like to know about the charity and what you did for them.
The charity was Wounded Warrior Project, and it's a really important program to us. You know, everybody has problems with charities and what amount goes to whom and stuff like that. Let's put all of this shit aside. The fact of the matter is this is a program that helped soldiers specifically that I sent home from Iraq, who I knew was going to spend the rest of their lives in recovery. So we chose this event to help sponsor it. And the Paranormal Hunt for Heroes, it was originally supposed to be us and another team. And I'm not going to drop any names like Next Gen Paranormal, but I'm just going to say it was another team.
Boom!
I mean, let's call it what it is, okay? And their young team, we invited them down here to Clarksville, Fort Campbell, and we explained to them what it's like to be a soldier deployed and hurt, and why Wounded Warrior was important. And so, because we had two teams, we decided we would raise $1,500 as well as broadcast it to a unit in Afghanistan, Korea, and Korea. And recently, my former unit just left for Liberia on the Ebola mission. So a lot of my soldiers just left, so we were going to give them a link as well. We funded everything. We were able to lock on Bobby Mackey's Music World, so that that was the paranormal, and I'm using quotations, Mecca, okay, of the paranormal world.
Air quotes, Mecca.
Yes, air quotes.
Okay.
Right there. So what we did was we got businesses to donate, and 100% of everything raised goes to Wounded Warrior. We got Wounded Warrior to actually activate the event and make it official. They recognize the event as a proud sponsor event, and they put a link on the Wounded Warrior page. And people could make online donations, at which we raised $850. And then the remaining $650 we got from businesses whom helped donate money towards it, sponsored certain things, and from there we were able to collect the remaining $1,500. And for everyone that donated, Wounded Warrior is sending them something for their taxes. It's a write-off.
Cool. Nice.
So we took it. What ended up happening was the other group kind of disappeared, and so it was left on us. And you know what? I'm really proud of my team because we raised our half, but now the last month, I remember calling you freaking out. I had to raise another $750, and so we did.
Yeah.
And went to Bobby Mackey's, and from what I understand from a Battle Buddy today, they watched what I sent them.
Good.
And we had a lot of technical difficulties there, but I'll explain that later.
Yeah,
we'll get into that one.
A few technical difficulties.
But now that I know why, I am not surprised.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, it's great, and it's so awesome that you raised the money. And not only did you raise the money, you guys did it yourselves. You know, you were supposed to be partnered up with somebody that really didn't they start it? Didn't they get?
Yes. What happened was one of them, their founder called me, and because we had already been talking about doing something for veterans, and he said that they wanted to do a charity event and would they do it with us, and I said, well, we want to do something with Wounded Warrior. Are you on board? And so they said, absolutely. And that's how it all got started. It was originally his idea.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then they totally just disappeared.
And then about, the week before Halloween, we see something on their Facebook page saying, well, we took a few months off and now we're raising money for Wielden Manor and their Halloween event. And I just said, to each their own. Wow. And part of it, to some extent, I have to say, they're a young group. They're very young. And it's really difficult when you're working towards something and working with, like, my team. My team we're very organized. We do drills. We do a lot that most normal teams don't do. So it might have been intimidating, and they might have just felt like, dude, we're just way out of our element here.
Right.
So,
but it was very, just from what you've told me, and it's just very unprofessional the way they handled it. If it was too much, they should have said something to you.
Yeah, I just look at it as, the paranormal community as a whole is unprofessional.
Yeah.
So have they gotten back to you since then?
What?
Did they get back to you since then? Have they even explained themselves?
Oh,
no.
Did they get back to you and explain themselves?
No, what I did do was finally, after saying that, I did send a professional email, and I said, because of, I'm one of those kinds of people that, I was a non-commissioned officer. I pull no punches, and I'll tell you straight to your face, hey, dude, pardon my language, but you're fucking up. And so that's what I did. I sent him an email, and I said, we're not hearing from you. You've not been at any trainings. You're not returning calls, so unfortunately, we're taking this as you're not in this event. And he never replied.
Wow. Damn.
But that's okay, to each his own, regardless of which all I can focus on is the fact that we had a mission. It was to raise $1,500 for Wounded Warrior, and we executed, and we accomplished our mission. Everybody else, kick rocks, deuces. Have a great fucking day.
Booyah. That's great. You still there, Lou?
I'm still here.
Good. You still sound like crap.
Yeah, and I'm trying to fix it.
It's not. I don't know. When you start talking, it comes in a little bit better, but I don't know. It's when you jump in, it breaks up a little bit. Okay, so this event. Now, you get there, you start setting up, and I tuned in, I logged in, and I saw the video that I guess you pre-recorded for
No,
it.
I did it right there in the vehicle.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it came up, and that looked great, and then it went off air for a while.
Yes.
So what happened?
What happened was that, and I sent you pictures.
Mm-hmm.
The establishment itself, Bobby Mackey's, what we were doing is we had a POV cam. And it was a law enforcement POV cam, which we specifically chose to use because it's watermarked. And that's important because it means that no one can tamper or alter that. It's used in courts of law. So we wanted something that no one could doctor up.
Good.
It also broadcasts. And when we go into the building, we find out they have a major transformer there. They have lead and copper wires, or lead and copper pipes. They have a big ass, lead vault. They had power lines right over it. The amount of electricity and interference that was going on in there, it fried some of our equipment.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I had 2 electricians there. Because, see, I'm serious. I went the night before and I reconned the place. And I saw there's a lot of issues here. So I had 2 electricians come out to also give us a baseline reading. Granted, we have cell sensors, but you know what a lot of people don't understand. Cell sensors are, whether you want to use those shoddy K2 meters or, a freaking paper clip with tinfoil. I don't give 2 craps. The fact of the matter is those are single axis meters.
Right.
And I needed a proper reading. So they came out with Galvin meters. And what they found was that, here's a big giant transformer that's in the center of the basement. And it's it's 30,000 volts there converting down to 210 volts. That's a lot of electricity. Anything that was going by there or even close in that vicinity, we were having some problems. That's why our batteries were draining. It wasn't a ghost. Yeah, it's not a spirit trying to manifest and use our batteries for energy or anything. They explained it to me, and it was very logical. In fact, I write everything down, Kenny. You know me. That's just what I do. But he said...
Are you sure it's not a ghost? Are you sure?
I'm pretty positive.
I'm disappointed.
Transformers, you have power lines, and on our RVPR we were seeing EM pulses, and they were very, very consistent. And he said, just in the transformer alone, the amount of coil that you have to run to do that conversion it's like a shit ton. So it basically created a giant electromagnet.
Yeah.
So you take chargeable batteries in that vicinity, and that's what drains batteries, cell phones, causes, anything with a webcast kind of thing you get a lot of interference.
Okay.
So not only do you have that, but I also took pictures of the outside. Directly above Bobby Mackey's, you have power lines. So the way the electrician said, and I also, just to ensure, I reached out to Michael Baker, and I also reached out to Mitch, whom
Silverstein.
Silverstein, your unofficial.
That's our boy Mitch.
Yes, that's right. Because I always get second and third opinions.
Good.
Basically, the polarity between the power lines, it's basically like 2 electromagnets, and the poles weren't opposite from what we were finding. So the transformer was creating a bigger current, and then you've got this other one, you've got the lead and the copper. It was basically, this is going to sound very, very vulgar, but...
Oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, it's going to sound really vulgar, but it's like having a sex clinic and putting up an all-you-can-screw sign. Because basically that's what's going to happen to all of your real equipment in there.
Wow.
I mean, and that's something that's important because, you know, you see these videos and you see people who have their recorders or their cameras and they're like, oh my God, I put a brand new battery in here and it's draining. It's taking all of this energy.
So,
and you know what the truth is? No, it's not. You know what's taking that energy? That big ass transformer that's right in the middle of the room. That's what's taking energy.
So it's not like we have it's kind of like a portal, not a portal.
Yeah.
I mean, just going off your analogy there.
Well, because, you know, we were getting screwed left and right. And I was like, oh my gosh. So that's why. We have done drill after drill after drill. Even the night before, we went in a remote location and all of our equipment was functioning fine. It even it was functioning fine when we were in a parking lot in the back end, which is where I started doing that recording. It wasn't until we pulled right up that we started having a lot of the technical difficulties.
Damn. Well, that's a big deal because, I mean, Bobby Mackey's is a very famous haunted place, you know, and I was talking to you earlier and told you, like, I was watching a lot of videos today, just doing some research on it so I could prepare myself, you know, for talking to you about this. And all of these videos, all the groups are going in there and just going crazy because, you know, their EMF meters are going off, their little K2s are going crazy all over the place. But, I mean, with this information, it's pretty much any electrical device that you take in there is completely useless.
There are K2s, EMF meters, cell sensors, all of that stuff that they're trying to use, they should go off because they also had exposed wires that were still hot. Right. They have copper wires. And that's why I sent you a lot of those pictures because those are some of the things that affect a lot. And so, you know, it's a big difference when you see it visually as opposed to just hearing, well, there's wires everywhere. And that's why I had to send you those pictures. Mm-hmm. Not to mention, in the middle of their main hall, they've got a big, giant sound system. I sent the readings of what they were to Mitch, and I sent them to Mike and Michael Baker, and they were both, those are pretty high readings. You know, they were really high.
Yeah.
And that was with power off. You know.
Wow.
So, yeah. So with power on, you know, it would be even higher. The other thing is that I sent you a picture of a floor, and it looks like the camera was kind of tilted.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't. The camera was on the level. So the camera was straight. So the reason why that's important is because I had spoke to an adjunct professor at UC Berkeley, and he's done a lot of studies on mystery spots, funhouse effects, things like that.
Right.
The entire establishment, there's no level flooring, and it's at a tilt because we took 3 different levels, and they all came to the same degree. And that really screws with your perceptions.
Really?
It really does, and your sense of balance. If your sense of balance is off long enough, right, you can actually see things. 16 feet away from the basement, downstairs from the basement, are active train tracks. Active train tracks emit a crap ton, ELF, low frequencies. There's science, anybody can YouTube it. There's a lot of studies where low frequencies can move cars. They can move water. Now, if you have these and they're consistent, I mean, the train doesn't even have to be right there. It could be miles down the road. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, it's an active train track. The train comes through there, I think at midnight. But, for example, you can have these little small, almost like seizures in your head. But what happens is your eyes will start to shake and you won't realize it, and you'll see things out of your peripheral vision because you're not feeling your eyes move or reverberate like that. And then you can see shadows. You can see things move or someone suddenly jerk. And you don't realize that, no, what's happening is your eyes. So you have train tracks, exposed wires, lead, copper, power lines, and a big-ass transformer on top of neon lights and a big old sound system and an unlevel floor. And it's going to be really hard for anybody to maintain their bearing.
And usually it's done in the dark.
Yes, which we did not do.
Wow.
We used lights, and our choice of lights, and I'd even talked to you about this. The minute, most of these claims that happen, it happens when people are around. So if people are around, why the hell are you turning off the lights? That doesn't make sense. Who walks around in the dark and oh yeah, I was just washing dishes or I was just using the bathroom and something touched me? Well, I'm sure the lights were on. So if that's the case, I'm going to recreate the environment.
Right.
So for part of it, we did have the lights on. And then we went lights off because we wanted people to see how much you're limited visually when the lights are off. Plus, if you're looking down a dark, dark area and it's completely black, you have visual pareidolia. Yeah. You will see things that are not there.
Right.
It's like the Jesus and toast. So we do it a little differently in that respect. Now, I will say that Matt Coates, their head of security, and Denise Mackey, they were extremely friendly. When they talked to me, Denise was saying, that's the legend. She wouldn't say it as fact, this happened or that happened. She would say that's, a legend. I honestly do believe that they've had their own experiences, but I also was very upfront with them, and I told them I don't count personal experiences because I can't substantiate them.
Good.
But they were very friendly, and they were very respectful, and I respected them a lot for what they did. They were able to raise $213 for Wounded Warrior.
Nice.
So, but I also told them, just like I tell anybody else, I don't go into debunk. I don't go into prove. I go in to find out. And I'm not going to bullshit you. If I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. But whatever I do find, whether you like it or not, I'll compile it in a nice, handy-dandy report, and I'll send everything to you, along with every reference that I use.
Good.
I have a reference list.
And that's the journalist inside you. That's beautiful. And everybody, every paranormal group should be like that.
But unfortunately, a lot of them aren't.
Hey, Lou's there. Wow, he sounds good too.
Is it better now?
Much better.
All right.
I think the reason why people don't cite their sources is because they don't have any.
Agreed. Yes, agreed. They usually, seriously, I think most of it is made up. They sit there and think, well, this is what I think happens, this is what I believe happens, and that's what they write. And they don't bother to check references or check sources that have already written about this topic or that topic. And they go about it like that. I mean, I learned the hard way that way. I used to write the same way. Used to write pretty much, my articles were my opinion. And then I learned from people much better than I was that wasn't good enough.
Yeah, those are editorials.
Yes. Yeah, so I learned and I grew and now I'm much better. And Lou, what the hell are you doing?
Nothing. I'm right here. Just listening to you.
I was getting static from you. Never mind.
No, don't worry about that.
I like that you said how you recreate the environment. If someone has an experience and you recreate it, if they had the lights on, then there's no reason to turn it off. And I find that that's a big issue in the community because too many people just want to turn the lights out and they don't think about the details of the experience that happened to the other person.
I agree. I think, I don't know, what do you think, Lou? I think that that's the difference between a paranormal researcher, which is what we do, and a ghost hunter.
Yes.
I think because when you're researching something, you need data. You need quantifiable, data. You need research. You need to recreate. You need to do testings. You need to do experiments. You need controlled environments. And then you need critical review. Our team, I had no problems doing it. We put ourselves up for critical review.
Yes, they did.
I was very surprised. I was ready to have a new butthole ripped, but, no, didn't happen, but that's part of it, and that's the learning process, and that's growing. But there's not a lot of teams that want to, because, see, that's work, and that's not fun.
Right.
The same thing goes with the lights. Why do you want to do all of these extra steps? That's not fun. That's not Ghost Adventures material.
Yeah. So
That's what we talked about last week. They want instant gratification.
yes. Yeah.
Well, I can get instant gratification by turning out my own lights and, shocking myself into an electrical outlet, but
Oh.
overrated.
Can we see that?
No. It's actually happened. Downrange. I'm not even lying you. No shit, there it was. So in Iraq, I'll tell you, their electrical outlets are very, very different, and the voltage and everything else like that. And we had switched the converters over on one of our pieces of equipment. They're like, go ahead and plug it in. And I was like, oh, shit. And I knew something was wrong when I saw some flickering, but I was like, oh, it's got to be done. So I was just like, 1, 2, 3, go. And I shoved it in there, and it was, I have to tell you, getting electrocuted really hurts.
I've been there.
It kind of burns. It's got this instant burning sensation, and then afterwards you're like, oh my God, did I just shit myself? But I didn't. I didn't. So yeah, I won't ever repeat that one.
That's awesome. But yeah, Lou, yeah, like you said, too many groups today, they want instant gratification. Nobody wants to do the work, the hard work behind it. They don't want to do science. Science is hard. They'd rather do what they see on TV, which is definitely not science.
Well, it's because it's fun.
Right.
You become an instant scientist right there.
Yeah. Yeah, all you need is a website and a Facebook page.
Well, my question is, who's the historian for all of these shows? Because whoever it is, they need to be fired.
Oh, I agree.
The history behind the majority of these places that's being put out is wrong. And that does a disservice two ways. One, I think it robs people of history, and I get really pissed off at that. But two, if you are truly want to do research and investigation, then having that erroneous information hinders you from asking the right questions.
Right.
If someone were to come into my house and call me George all day long, George, why did you beat that horse? George, why did you kick that cow? I'm going to look at him and say, dude, I don't own a cow. I don't own a horse. My name is Mellanie. What the fuck are you talking about? Get the fuck out of my house. And I wouldn't say shit because we just want to communicate. Well, if that's what you want, I'm not communicating with you. You're going to be that disrespectful. If someone were to come into my house and say, Mellanie, did you really, punch that guy in the chest? Did you really push your kid down in the sandbox? Yes, I did. I won't answer it.
Yes, I kicked the shit out of my kids.
Okay, rule of thumb, first off, I didn't do that, okay? She pushed me first, so I just barely nudged her, and she ate dirt.
I'm so with you. My kid starts fights all the time, and I get yelled at.
But no, I'm serious that, which would you answer to? Would you answer to them if they called you by the right name and got the right history? Or would you answer if they said the wrong shit?
I agree. What do you think, Lou?
I agree. I start the fights anyway, so that's what I do.
Sweet. So, speaking of researching history, now I really, really want to get into this with you. Because
all right, let's go for it, dude.
Let's just throw everything in the pot here, shake it up, and dump it all over ourselves.
All right.
So,
Let's
there's
go.
a lot of stories from Bobby Mackey's. Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of stories come out there. The girl who supposedly who was murdered and decapitated. There's another
Pearl
one about
Bryon.
a dancer.
That's Johanna.
Yes.
I've researched this for 6 months. Give me a name. I'll tell you who they are.
So, I want you to give us the stories, the popular stories, because this is what this place... Lou, stop dropping stuff. Stop eating Cheetos.
I'm not. I'm just right here going through my notes.
Okay. I want to know, the popular stories that I've seen all over the place are the one about Johanna and Pearl.
Right.
So, tell us the stories as they're promoted, and then please tell us about the history that you found out about them.
All right. So, with Pearl Bryon.
Sorry, that was me.
the hell was that?
I stretched and knocked over my microphone. I kicked it across the desk.
So the large story with Pearl Bryon that has been circulating is that Pearl Bryon was a young woman from Indiana. She was dating these two, at the ghost tours he called them medical students, Scott Jackson and Alonzo Walling, in 1896. And she got pregnant with Scott Jackson's baby. She didn't want an abortion, so he tried to give her an abortion, and then they ended up decapitating her, throwing her head in the well as part of a satanic ritual. That's what's being put out.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they were tried, right?
They were tried, and then it was stated that on the gallows, Alonzo Walling stated that he would haunt and curse that location for all eternity.
That location being
the
Bobby
building. Mackey's.
Okay.
And they said that the well that is inside of Bobby Mackey's is the one that her head was thrown into, and that the place was utilized for satanic rituals and cults later on.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So what did you find out about that?
What I found out about it is about 97% of that is incorrect.
Wow, that's a lot.
97%?
Yes, and I will tell you why. Number one.
Please tell us why.
Oh, it's going to happen. So I'm just letting you know, first off, and I sent these to you, Kenny.
Yes.
I just sent him just a handful of the actual newspaper clippings from 1896 and 1897. That's just a handful of them. There's also a book written in 1897 about all of it. The murder, the trial, and everything. But it was written by someone anonymously. When I spoke to someone from the Kentucky Historical Society, they told me that a lot of times people who are in positions of authority, when they would release things like that, they wouldn't put
What the hell is that?
It's Bobby Mackey's Spirit Train.
Yes.
Oh my God, you're a nut. I love you guys.
So yeah,
I warned you
the
about
Spirit Train's
him.
coming for us.
I knew it.
See, they heard that we're talking about them. They're pissed off. That's the train coming to get us.
I knew it.
There it goes again.
See, there you go. No, but usually they're people of authority that have access and are privy to information that they can't just release out. So I read that. I also pulled the actual court documents from the original trial to his appeal,
Okay.
Scott Jackson and Alonzo Walling's appeal, and I sent that to you as well. The truth is, February 1st, 1896, they found a body on the corner of John Locke. He had this orchard, and that was in Fort Thomas, Kentucky, which is just across the river from Cincinnati. It does go along the Alexandria Pike. There was no head. The torso was on the ground, front side down. What ended up occurring is there was a lot of people that trampled in through the area. They were taking bits and pieces because it was the murder of the century. And, one thing led to another. They were able to deduct through her shoe that it was this young woman named Pearl Bryon.
No, wait a minute. Let me stop you. You said that people were coming through and taking bits and pieces. What do you mean by that?
They were coming through. Once it was found out that a young woman had been murdered and decapitated in the fashion, people were coming through. They were selling time to go in there where they could take leaves that had blood on it, a snippet of her clothing here or there, locks of hair, branches, take photos. In fact, I came across one photo of a group of people standing by the body. It was really morbid. So what the police had to do is to the press, was they tried to release it in a different location.
Now, where did you find this picture again?
The Kentucky Historical Society.
Wow.
In fact, if you go into the archives of the Cincinnati Enquirer between 1896 and 1897, they have a plethora of pictures newspaper clippings. I mean, I was sifting through there for almost 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yes, there was so much information out there. This is not like it was a big scandal or secret. Now, the best thing to do is attack the claims. She knew she was pregnant. There was a telegram that was entered into evidence in the court that proved that Scott Jackson knew it was his baby. The autopsy found 14 grams of cocaine in her stomach because she was trying to abort the baby. She was 5 months pregnant. She had defensive wounds on her arms here and on her forearms, and the blood spatter was about 2 feet high on the bushes. That's indicative of her being upright and fighting back.
Right.
And then when she was alive, her throat was slit because the blood spatter from the carotid obviously
shot out.
And then the cut on the back of her neck was clean. So now, were they medical students? No, they were not. Scott Jackson was a dental student. Back then, abortions were usually performed illegally, obviously, by dental students or dentists because they had the right tools for it, not medical students. Anyways, the only thing that was confirmed was they had blood going up the hill. And so the investigators followed it, and there was a cistern, which is where they collect rainwater, and there was a heavy rock over it that had a bloody handprint. They lifted the rock. There was nothing in there. He continued. They brought dogs. All of the traces stopped at the edge of the river. Now, they were able to finally figure out how, it's a long, long story, but let's get to the point. Scott Jackson and Alonzo Walling are brought in along with Pearl Bryan's cousin. And Scott Jackson pointed the finger at Alonzo Walling and said, he was the one who did it. I was basically the lookout. Alonzo Walling pointed the finger at Scott Jackson and said, I wasn't even there. He's the one who did it. They did find the purse or little bag that carried her head in it. Yeah, that's also in the library.
Yeah, it's on display, right?
Yes, it's on display. The only thing that both defendants agreed to when asked, and this is actually in the court documents, what happened to the head, they said, most likely in the river. They both, and that's the only thing they agreed on. There was consistency in that, along with the forensic evidence at the time. The reason why they cut her head off, 1896, the only way you could identify a body usually is from the head and the face.
Yeah.
So that's why they got rid of it. As far as the claims of Alonzo Walling stating that he was going to haunt the place, that's complete fabrication. The New York Times covered that. In fact, I have the actual article.
Yes.
The night before the execution, Scott Jackson admitted Alonzo Walling had nothing to do with it. Wow. To the sheriff. That's in court documents. That's also in public record. But by the time it was close to midnight, they could not get the governor on the phone. So the next day they're at the gallows and they think that Scott Jackson is going to admit it. They look at Alonzo Walling, actually said nothing at the gallows. They all look at Scott Jackson and Scott Jackson says, today you're killing an innocent man. No curse, no nothing. The next thing you know, they're hung. It was actually a long drawn out hanging as well, I'm sorry. And I sent you the newspaper clipping for that.
Yes.
The New York Times. And the thing is, for the New York Times, they had nothing to do with Kentucky. And they had nothing to do with Tennessee. So they're not going to buy into a lot of the little fables and tales because they're on a national syndicate right there. They were big time. So they reported, if there was any form of occult practice or Satanism, which they said, is the claims that Scott Jackson and Alonzo Walling was in, that would have been in every newspaper clipping imaginable because that's sensationalism.
Hell yeah.
Sells newspapers.
At that time?
Especially back then.
Yes. Yeah.
Not one time from 1896 to 1897, not once was there any mention or even suggestion from the prosecution that it was a satanic ritual.
So as far as the history is concerned, that was a complete fabrication.
Yes, not to mention the fact that it did not happen at Bobby Mackey's. It happened just outside Fort Thomas, which is 4.6 miles away, the actual location.
Location of what? The body or
where the murder occurred?
Okay, so the murder happened like almost 5 miles away.
Yes.
Yep.
That's pretty far.
And the reason why it happened outside of Fort Thomas, it makes sense. At the time, there were soldiers there. And in the beginning, everybody thought a soldier committed the murder. No one knew it was Pearl Bryon, and that's most likely why. The only way, they might have passed the location, the little butcher shop, on the way, but it had nothing to do with it. In fact, it was never even mentioned.
So did you present all this to Bobby Mackey?
Bobby Mackey really isn't interested in the paranormal himself. It's mostly his wife, and, that's how I think they really keep it open. But he doesn't really talk much about it. I did tell her that I found, and I did tell Matt Coates that he's their head of security, and he's been interviewed often in these things, that I found a different history. And not to be offended, but I'm not buying into what was being said about it, because it didn't happen here. Not to mention, they said that is the well, that's the gateway to hell. The problem is Bobby Mackey's actually has 3 wells in there.
3?
Oh, really? I thought there was only 1.
Yeah.
Exactly. When I asked Matt, I said, well, where are the other 2? His jaw just kind of hit the floor, and he's like, how did you know that? Yeah, I know. This bitch will find me. So,
don't worry, this bitch knows.
But there were 3, because it wasn't this big, giant slaughterhouse that everybody thinks. When I pulled the PVA and I pulled the deeds back then, and I even have the deed book it came from, it was a small, more like a butcher shop.
Okay.
And these wells, the body parts did go in there from the animals, and the blood was drained. But when the distillery was there, all 3 of those wells were used to pump water into Old 76 Distillery.
And how did you find out? Just from the old records?
Yes.
Okay. Wow. Did you get to see the other 2 wells?
I know where they are now. He did tell me where they were.
Okay.
I tried to crawl up to one, but then it was just so nasty. And I didn't want to get electrocuted. Plus, they're very open about it. If you know the shit and you ask them, Denise and Matt, I will tell you, they don't try and BS you. They're very honest, and they'll tell you, yeah, I know this is there. They caved in. 2 of them did cave in. And so the one well that's left, they've got the boards around it and stuff like that. But It's not the gateway to hell.
So the one that everybody goes to investigate is the only good well, right?
Yes. That's the one that they claim was used for satanic ritual, and that Pearl Bryon's head was thrown in there.
But was it? Do we know if it was not?
It was not thrown in there.
Okay.
No. Because both defendants...
what I'm asking is that the actual one that they claim they threw the head in? Or could it be one of the other?
Might be one of the other 2.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Because and here's why. When you look at the court records and all the reports and even the interrogation of Scott Jackson and Alonzo Walling, both defendants, the only thing they agreed on, because they were interviewed separately, okay? They were never put together when they were interviewed or even after. The only thing they agreed on was the fact that when they were asked, well, where's the head now? They said, I think it's in the river.
Okay.
If I were you, I would check the river. As well as the dogs. The dogs took them right up to the river.
So there's absolutely no historical, factual information that links this murder, the entire murder thing, with Bobby Mackey's, the building.
That's correct.
So how did they get a murder that happened? How did they get a murder that happened almost 5 miles away, and the ghost? How did they get that whole deal? Well, let's take that murder from 5 miles away and bring it here to the club.
Well, I thought about that. So I interviewed this woman who went to school, and she grew up in Wilder, Kentucky. And she was a sophomore, she was a freshman in 1977 or a sophomore in 1977. And they learn about Pearl Bryon murder case, because Wilder and Fort Thomas, Newport, it was a small area. And they learn about it in history class. But they never heard anything about satanic ritual and it being at Bobby Mackey's. Bobby Mackey buys the establishment in 1978. The stories really start generating around 1979, 1980. Carl Lawson said it was revealed to him by the demons that this is what happened.
No. Well, because the same thing with Johanna, looking at the paperwork that, looking at her death certificate that we hit, that both, I guess, all three of us have, I looked up her address, and she's almost 5.6 miles away from the club.
You're gosh darn right. You're absolutely correct.
And when I looked at it, I go, okay, 5.6 miles away. That's 16 minutes to Bobby Mackey's. But back then, what year did she die again? She died in what? Oh, shoot, I can't see the year here.
1914.
1914. So I'm assuming not everybody had a car. She might have still been walking around with maybe a wagon or a horse back then. So that 16-minute drive might have been, 30 minutes, maybe an hour?
Are you talking about Johanna?
Yeah.
No, it would never have happened.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Again, here's another crime or whatever, another death that's almost 6 miles away from what was known back then, I guess, as the Latin Quarter Club.
Yes.
And they somehow managed almost 70 years later to say, hey, she died here too.
Right.
So, and you said that this pretty much originated with Carl Lawson?
Yes.
Now, was he the caretaker?
Yes.
Okay. And I saw a video of him with a priest because apparently he had an exorcism done?
Yes.
And all right, so I guess how does he factor in? Was he just a caretaker and he just made this up?
Carl Lawson, when he was about 17, 18 years old, he went to Bobby Mackey's, and he said that he had worked there when it was the Hard Rock Cafe, I guess. Not the main chain, but it was a biker joint. It was also known as the Bloody Bucket. Nice. There were actual deaths there. There were 2 young men that were killed right there.
Okay.
But he stayed in the room just about, there's an upstairs to Bobby Mackey's, and he stayed up there, and he watched the place at night, overnight, and he claimed that demons possessed him, and they showed him Johanna's journal, which he said was destroyed in a fire, and they told him the truth about Pearl Bryon and why she was murdered, as well as contact with Johanna. After which, they brought a priest in there, or a pastor. It wasn't a priest. They brought a pastor in there, and that night he sat there unrestrained and had an exorcism.
Yeah.
Now, same thing with Johanna. I forgot what they say she died of. But on her death certificate, it says she died, was it?
Overdose.
Poisoned by overdose?
Yes.
And then I can't read the rest of it. Kind of like
Cannabis.
Poisoned by overdose of herpes. I don't know. I can't see that last part.
Tell us the story of Johanna. Like what the...
So the claims of Johanna are that this was a young woman who in the 1920s, she was in her 20s in the I was told on this recent ghost tour it was 1950. I have heard 1947, and I've heard 1956. They need to choose which one, because it's confusing me.
It's also been the 1930s as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's even better. I got something for them on that one.
So she's like Jesus. She dies and she comes back.
Pretty much, yeah, except she's not seen in toast. So what happens with this chick is they say that she was the daughter of the owner of the club, is what I was told on Saturday. And her father, they said he wasn't sure if it was Red Masterson or Buck Brady. She danced by the name of Johanna Jules. And she was in love with a man named Robert Randall, and he was in a band there, and her father found out she was 5 months pregnant, so he had her lover Robert killed, and then she tried to poison her father, and she killed herself with poison by overdose, and she wrote a love poem on the wall there.
Wow, it seems like everybody's 5 months pregnant.
That's what they're saying is the curse.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you the truth about what's going on here.
Sure.
So now granted, there's a book, no one has seen this journal. This journal was supposedly destroyed in a fire. So Carl Lawson told a man, and Dan Smith,
There's
They're
that train
coming for
again.
me. I'm telling you. They're coming.
I'm telling you, man, the ghost is coming.
I knew it. So I took a book that has, and it's the vernacular was adjusted because it was a retelling of what was in there from Carl Lawson, and he swears that that's what was in the journal. So I took that to a linguist. I sent it to an actual professor, Lynn Sims.
So just to clarify, we do not actually have the journal.
No one has the journal. No, it was supposedly destroyed.
Okay.
No one has seen the journal except for Carl.
So these entries from the journal are strictly his version, his idea.
Yes.
Okay.
Of what was recounted to him, or from copies of the pages that he had wrote. Okay. So I took them to a linguist. Now there's a lot of problems with Johanna. And we'll start from the top. The linguist, who's an actual professor, the vernacular doesn't fit. We knew that, okay? The other problem is, though, and I also talked to a women's study professor at UCLA, who actually, her forte was on women in the early 19th and 20th centuries. If you are a young woman in your 20s or 30s during that time, and we will, Lou, for shits and giggles, we'll go with 1930. Bring it on. From 1930 to let's say 60. If you were single, you lived at home, which in her journal she says that she does. But if you are a dancer, that was very shameful. You would not live at home. Mafia guys never mixed their wives and their daughters with business. Therefore, it would not make sense that his daughter, who would be prim and proper at 20-something years old, is a dancer in his own casino.
Kind of like you, Kenny. You're prim and proper.
Shut up.
I knew it.
Shut up, Lou.
So, historically, when you're looking at women's studies, when you're looking at the vernacular that was used, it doesn't match. Now, let's just take the father. Now, first they said it was the Latin Quarter, and that the father was the head of that mafia, which would be the Cleveland Four, okay, which would have been Mo Dalitz. He has a daughter. Talk to her. She lives in Las Vegas. Her name is Suzanne. She's very much alive. No other daughter.
Boom.
You found her.
Oh, I sure as fuck did. So then you have Buck Brady. Now, Buck Brady, they put out that he was just trying to run a legitimate business. No, he wasn't. He was a bootlegger. He had no daughters named Johanna. Neither did Red Masterson. Now, I don't know why they're telling me that Red Masterson was friends with Buck Brady. Buck Brady tried to kill Red Masterson.
Are we talking about the cowboy, Brett Masterson?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So, there's just a lot. So, whether or not her father was Mo Dalitz, Red Masterson, or, Buck Brady, none of them would have been. Because I also pulled their ancestry records. None of them had a daughter named Johanna. Now they said, I questioned their tour guide on Saturday about this, and he told me his friend was able to find the actual death certificate. And on the death certificate, it says her name, Johanna Jules, which was her dancing name. You wouldn't put a dancer's name on a death certificate.
Absolutely not.
So
they made it up, they printed it in the back.
But then I said, well, where is this documentation? Because I have a death certificate. I had a friend of mine who works in a position where he can get these things from 1900 who pulled it and searched records.
She went all cloak and dagger on us.
That's right.
Yeah, she did. She had to think about that one.
I did, because I didn't want to put him on blast and get him in trouble. 1900, 2014, there was one. And that's Johanna Reagan, who died at 44 Pike in Covington in 1914, before it was ever the Primrose or the Latin Quarter, and she was married. Now, then there's the other issue of Johanna saying that her lover was named Robert Randall. Well, that makes sense, because Bobby Mackey's name is Robert Randall Mackey.
Whoa, wait, the owner of the place?
The current owner's name is Robert Randall Mackey. The story of Johanna, and I also searched microfiche. There's no woman, Johanna, or any suicide and attempted poisoning of the mafia, any record of that. Wow. Ever. Not one newspaper clipping. The story came from Carl. Now, the last bit is, if you look at the poem that's on the wall down there that they say is her love poem.
Yeah. That's
a song by Tony Arden, released October 12, 1951. It's called Never.
That's great.
Yeah, those are the actual lyrics.
Wow. So that entire story is fabricated.
Yes.
Everything.
The sad part is they are missing the real history. Bobby Mackey's was a true mafia joint, where that location was. The Primrose and the Latin Quarter. I mean, the Cleveland Fort, Mo Dallas is known as Mr. Las Vegas. He helped start the Desert Inn. That location actually did have deaths on the location from violence, from the mob, which was documented, as well as Hard Rock Cafe, where, I pulled the kid's death certificate, and then it was shut down. So the thing is that, you miss asking a whole bunch of viable questions because you're focused on a bunch of bullshit. Now, if you want to say that this place is paranormal, I have no problems with that. Well, I don't know. I haven't reviewed the data. I'm not going to go that far. But
that's all right. Me and Kenny have found a couple of those people, too.
Yeah.
But, the thing is that put the right stuff out there.
Yeah.
That's doing a disservice to people. What about all these kids who are growing up saying, oh, yeah, that's where so-and-so was murdered? No, the fuck it wasn't. Get your history straight. It's like Common Core. You're fucking it up, dude.
I hate that shit.
So do I, because I don't know how my daughter's doing math. I don't understand why there's all these lines and dots.
No.
Just add it together. That's all you need to do.
I like the old way. It worked. It was
simple. I don't know. The old way confused me. This new way is confusing me even more.
Oh, my God. So, I guess, from what we learned about this is that the two major stories that
are false.
Are false. The two major draws, the reasons why all these paranormal groups are going there are completely false.
Yes. Wow. Now, when I went on my tour on Saturday, their tour guide was actually asking me questions. Is that correct? Is that correct? And I would tell him, yes, this is correct. Yeah, that part's correct. But then there was a lot that was so wrong. But, it wasn't my place to sit there and say, because, that's his place of business. That's how he's earning money.
Right.
And so I didn't want to say anything right then, and plus it completely embarrass and emasculate the tour guide, so I said nothing. But I would have. I did tell Denise and Mackey, and I did tell Matt Coates that my historical findings are on point. And that's the, you can criticize me all you want. But when I've got documentation from 1896 and 1897, then the person you need to take it up with is not me. You need to go back to 1896 and 1897 and argue with the journalist who was there.
Yeah.
But I will not I'm not going to regurgitate history. I will tell you the truth of what I find.
Good. Now, do you know what happened to this Carl guy?
Yes. Carl.
He opened up Carl's Jr. And now he's a famous hamburger maker.
He died a couple years ago. Now, I will tell you, Carl Lawson, from what I understand, he was a very kind man. And I don't doubt for 1 second that he truly believed that he was possessed. I honestly believe that he thinks that. However, the one problem I have is that if you look at, and this is where all of that structural data comes in, the wiring, the unleveled flooring, the copper, the polarity between the telephone poles and the active train tracks. And this man lived in this place. He's constantly surrounded by it. It's going to drive him batshit crazy. Not to mention, he had to, some psychological issues, and he was an alcoholic. So, unfortunately, there was no medical care. There was no one taking him saying, okay, he thinks he's possessed. Let me take him to a doctor and see if there's something we can do to help him. It wasn't 1950 or 60 where they're going to send him to Waverly Hills Sanatorium and give him electric shock therapy. This was like in the 80s. I mean, he made it to Geraldo, so it must have been something.
Really?
Yeah, that's what started it. Geraldo and Jerry Springer.
Wow. So
yeah, I watched him.
He was.
Yeah, he had some bad styles back then.
He had actual psychological issues.
From the two individuals that knew him very well that I interviewed, yes, he suffered from depression, alcoholism, and drug abuse.
Wow. So, I mean, I don't want to talk bad about the guy if he was a good guy, except for these problems.
I heard he was a very sweet, kind man.
That aside, how could anybody take his word on such matters?
I think most likely that, think about it, historically speaking, back then, mental health wasn't as prevalent as it is now. Depression was one of those things where, you know what, you need to drink water and drive on.
Right.
Alcoholism, he works in a honky-tonk. He's 18 years old. If he's working in a honky-tonk, there's already red flags there, but it wasn't important. So what do most 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds do? They drink a lot of alcohol, especially if you're working in a bar and you're living there.
Right.
And also in the beginning of the 80s, a lot of people were doing drugs. So I don't think that it was so far outside of the norm that, and then there were other people that they claimed that they had their own experiences too. So I don't doubt for a second that he truly believed he was possessed. Whether or not he actually was, I don't know. The question I have is, the last time I checked, the Vatican didn't have an express lane. So that's the problem I have with, possessions according to the Roman ritual and these documented cases. It's not something that happens in, 6 to 8 hours, a true exorcism. And it's not something that just happens like that. This man didn't need restraints. He didn't speak in tongues. There was no levitation. But then again, on my ghost tour, they told me that this was the room that Zach Bagans was, possessed and then had an exorcism. And I said, well, geez, oh, Pete, what is it, like Wendy's? Can I get a short order? Because I might need a spare. You never know.
Yeah.
So that's the problem I have. When I watched it, it doesn't make sense.
Didn't they even do an exorcism in there during that episode, if I remember correctly?
That's what they claim, yes. And that wall of faces, I'm sorry, it's a concrete wall with clear water damage because you can just look up and see the floor is all water damaged as well. Chippings on there, they tried to say, yeah, this is a image of Johanna sleeping. So I turned to him and I said, well, how do you know that's her face? Where's the picture of her? You guys have no pictures of her. Now, the decorations that they have a dancing girl up there of the Latin Quarter. That's not Johanna, and I got Denise Mackey to admit to that.
Wow. So that kind of stuff pisses me off. When they know that it's not, they have nothing to back it up. They know it's not her, yet they're still going to promote that, yeah, that's Johanna. That's the ghost of her because, we just know it.
Well,
exactly.
They know that she admitted to me that the picture on the little light boxes that she makes is not Johanna. But I think if anybody were to ask her, I honestly think Denise Mackey would tell the truth and say, no, that's not her. I like to give her the benefit of the doubt like that. She was a very kind woman. But I think they're smart enough to know people aren't going to ask, is that really Johanna? I think they're just going to believe it because right next to it is a picture of Pearl Bryon. And that is the real picture of Pearl Bryon. Now downstairs, the wall of faces, it's no different than the ink blot test.
Yeah. I
mean, shit, I can look outside and I'll tell you, I'll find Cocoa Puffs and trees that are really acorns. And I think I see the Ghostbusters, man, in, that rack of tires in my backyard. So that's pretty much what the wall of faces is.
Wow. So you pretty much blew out the entire reason people would go there. I mean, the two main stories are from your research are fabricated.
Yes.
Going in, the environmental conditions inside the club are just horrendous.
Yeah.
With the unlevel floor, that'll screw you up.
Plus the acoustics. That'll really throw you off, depending on how they're asking things and stuff like that. However, I will tell you, I'm not one to say this place is not paranormal. This place is paranormal because I have data to review. And that's a little pet peeve of mine that I really hope someday you go off on, because it is not evidence. It is data. Evidence proves something. If you have it, you haven't reviewed it, how can it be evidence? It's not. It's data. So anyway.
Give it to him, girl. Go.
So
Go. Give it to him.
I have a lot of data to review. I will say that we have some audio clips that we have to send out for, second and third opinions.
Send it to me and Kenny. We'll do the second and third opinion.
I will send it to you. One of the things I did with Kenny is I'll send him every picture, and I send it unedited and not compressed. Did you see that? Weren't you so proud of me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, very much.
Yeah, that's all I needed. But
Boom. I'm done.
Yeah. For example, there's a picture that I sent Kenny that is a clear example of what people think they see. And we took a picture from an angle in one of the dressing rooms. By the way, they have this dressing room set up, and they say that this is Johanna's dressing room. She likes fresh roses. I asked them, how do you know this is her dressing room? They don't admit it. So,
and I'll throw in here, like, as we're telling a story, when I edit this whole thing together, I'm going to throw up the pictures that you sent me, so people will be able to see them.
Well, in this picture, it's in one of the dressing rooms. And I've seen other pictures kind of like it, of where they see the shadow person downstairs. And it's at an angle. And if you look to the right of the picture, you'll see these two white lights, and you'll see the silhouette of someone. So what did we do? I lightened the photo, and I also looked at the photo before and the photo after. And it's not. It's the angle. If you lighten it up, you'll see, wait a minute, that's a different structure. And when you look at the room head on, you can totally see what it actually is. So the problem is when it's completely dark and you've got angles, and down there they've got a whole bunch of mirrors, and you've got people in there taking flash photography in the dark, then you're getting these anomalies, and they're not really reviewing it. They're looking at it and saying, oh my God, I caught a shadow person. It's like Christmas. No, bitch, it's not. It's not.
Yeah, I like that. No, bitches, it's not.
No.
So awesome.
But that's the problem, And so same thing with the audio files. I don't compress them. I don't, amplify them. I don't do noise removal. If I hear something, that I'll take 10 to 15 seconds before, 10 to 15 seconds after, and I send it out for other people to listen to, because I don't know. We did have our visual, cameras up there. We don't use those to catch a Holy Grail. We use those for accountability. And that's why I needed them, because when I caught this audio clip, I said, okay, at this time, everything is synced up. I looked at all three cameras that were down there, and I know that there was no female down there. So now it's like, okay, well, what else can cause this? It's like medicine. I have to rule out everything else.
Nice. And I've preached that dozens of times about taking pictures. When you go into any location, go to every room and take pictures from all four corners at least.
And that's what we did. 179 photos.
And that's awesome, because that gives you a great visual record of what's in every room.
At the same time, we pace counted too. I pace counted to the pole, just like I did at Wolf House. I pace counted to every pole. I pace count to the train tracks. I bring in people who, this is what they do for a living in terms of electrician, linguists, scientists that are getting paid as scientists. They're real scientists. That's like their job.
Real. Yeah. We like real scientists.
Like yes. Yeah. I'm a scientist.
No, you're
like
not.
people like not me. So, yeah, I'm sending all of my stuff for the second and thirds, but I will tell you, we've got some, and this is where it gets confusing, audio anomalies that I'm like, that doesn't make sense. So I have to send it out to get a second and third opinion.
And that's what you should do.
I can't say that. There's not something going on. For all I know, you got people going in there that are fucking weirdos, dude. For real. People who are doing their seances. You have people going in saying, oh, this place is demonic. Dude, you haven't even gone inside. There was nothing demonic.
They're going right off of the stories, though. They're going right off the stories.
Let's go right off of the stories. Wanda Kay said in an interview on Ghost Adventures that if you say the name Zach Bagans or Nick Groff, you will be attacked and you are scratched. So won't you know this heifer that's talking to you right now, I said Zach Bagans. I dropped his name like 6 times. I asked about Nick Groff like 3 times. This heifer didn't get scratched. Not a punch, not a kick, not a scratch. No one even tried to shank me. I don't know what's happening here, but nothing.
But so you have to wear a tight shirt. That's why.
What was I thinking?
Yes. Yeah, if you don't have a shirt that's like 3 sizes too small, then it doesn't have the same effect.
I did say dude, because I am from California, so I do say dude. I threw that out there. I said, bro. Dude. Now, we don't provoke. I don't believe in provocations or anything else like that. Why? Because why? If it's intelligent, you don't need to insult it. If it's intelligent and it's going to interact, it's going to interact. I'm not going to sit there and insult somebody. So, I mean, otherwise, what if there's nothing there? You look like a freaking tool. So I'm not going to do that, but we didn't provoke or anything. We remained respectful and not catering to anything. We just asked point blank questions, and then in other times we just sat and talked to ourselves or talked to each other, and then in other times we just sat and be still. Yeah. Nice. And you know what we learned? That place creaks with, constantly. When the generator transformer kicks on, the whole place starts buzzing, and then your EM pulses are even higher. Wow. Sometimes you have to just sit and be still. And the data that you come back with it's phenomenal.
Right. I think too many groups go into a place and just start waving their devices around and setting them up, and they don't take the time. That's beautiful what you said. Just sometimes you need to sit and just shut up, close your eyes, and listen to the environment and see what's there.
Right.
Before you start with all the gadgets and shit.
I think you need to know how to use the gadgets. Wow. I've seen so many times people take cell sensors and EMF readers and putting it to a wall on a high sensitivity and saying, oh my God, we've got a spike. A, no you don't. You got to turn it to normal, you dumbass. And secondly, that's a single axis meter.
I love her already just because she talks the same way I do on everyday life.
it's the California thing. It must be. And I know it's not very ladylike, but Jesus, I deployed with all males, so I'm the only female on my team.
It's the military part of you, because I call everybody a dumbass.
It must be. So how can you get a tri-axis reading with a single axis meter when you're not even doing math?
Right.
There's a calculation involved. I put it on our Facebook page. I posted up there, and that's the other problem. People don't want to share their knowledge. I had no idea that there's a patent or, copyright infringement for sharing calculations or how-tos. If your true goal, and I see it time after time on Paranormal page, we want to advance and we want to learn and expose the truth and advance the research in the paranormal. Really? Then share your findings.
Right.
Really? Then if you've got this great piece of equipment, let others test it.
Yep.
In a controlled environment. Really, you've experienced these other things and you've got proof. Let me see it. Unedited, unclipped. Give me the raw footage. Exactly. You know how to do all of this stuff? Set up a training seminar. We do trainings, and I invite, Kenny, you've done a training for us on photography.
Yep.
And I put it out there to everybody I possibly knew that was in the area that was a quote-unquote paranormal team. Hey, please come over and broaden your skills, learn something. Nobody wants to come.
Yeah, because they think they know it all. They don't need training.
That's because they've taken a class from Wanda Quay on angiology, and even though she misspelled the dude's name and everything else in that flyer. Really? Or they've got this certificate in demonology that makes them credible.
Yeah. Lou's like a Reverend Pastor Jedi Master certified.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, now I know where to go when I need blessings.
There you go.
That's it.
But I agree with you. I mean, the community has to share, and I do see it. It's not like nobody shares. I do see some groups sharing and consulting each other. I mean, we've talked a lot. We go back and forth a lot and share information, and that's what they really need. Because if you keep all your data, again, because like you said, it's not evidence. If you keep all your data to yourself, then anybody else that goes into the same location has to start from scratch.
Absolutely.
So if I go in, some people don't want any information when they go into a place. I want as much as I can. So if you have information, give it to me so I can understand what mistakes you've made or what you've found. Maybe if you found causes for something, like, I don't know, maybe you found a speaker in the basement or something. I want to know that, because then if it's all valid information, I can now focus on something else. I don't have to waste time on what you've already solved.
Right.
And I mean, I constantly put it out there. And like I said, I do see it. There's groups that I've actually, I've debunked. I hate that word too. I've explained some of their evidence. And instead of being pissed off at me, they actually turned around and they're sharing stuff with me, and they're asking me for an opinion now. And one of the guys is a guy named Bob Christopher. He runs a group near me. He's actually sending me a device that he created so I can test it and I can tear it apart, so to speak. And that's the kind of attitude that I like to hear, because he's not afraid of it.
But most teams, and those are few and far between, and Kenny, you know me, if I'm wrong, I have no problems admitting I'm wrong. I would like to be corrected. I don't like sitting in ignorance. And I don't want my team doing that. That's not how the military works. We don't settle for mediocrity. Well, I don't know. I've seen some new soldiers lately, and we got to have a talk about that sidebar conversation. But anyways, but that's not how we roll. We only are best by the weakest link. So we've got to make them better, and we've got to educate ourselves. Most teams don't want that. They've got their theory, and if you try and prove them wrong or explain it, then you're automatically put in this group of, oh, well, you're just a skeptic, or, oh, you're a non-believer, or you just want to debunk everything. And that's not true. I do believe in the paranormal. I absolutely do. I've had my own experience. The problem is, I cannot prove a paranormal experience. Just like that train. I can prove that train's fucking there because I keep hearing it.
That cracking me up every time I hear it. Lou, where has this been? I have not heard this on any other show we've done.
I have no idea. It's like, it's fucking Train Central tonight, apparently.
Wow.
Bobby Mackey's, I'm telling you. Damn you, Bobby Mackey.
There it is.
It's his curse.
It's a
curse.
Trying
to shut you down.
The train curse.
The other problem is that everybody wants, and I think that's the thing, everybody wants to be the next Ghost Adventures or crew or Ghost Stalkers, what have you. It's the same show. So everybody wants to be that. The fact of the matter is, if you don't know the right history, or if you don't take all of these environmental factors into consideration, then you're asking the wrong question. Right.
You're already starting on the wrong premise. You're starting from you're not starting at the right point, and that's it. You're under false pretenses, and you're just going off in a direction where you don't need to go.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, your historical research is the most important, because that's your starting point.
Absolutely. That's to know the claims, because, like with Bobby Mackey's, I honestly think that people are asking the wrong questions. They're going down a whole avenue that you're wasting time.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not paranormal. I'm saying your history is fucking wrong, dudes.
Well, your history is wrong, and we also have an environmental factor.
That honestly, I was asked, how is it still operational? It's structurally not sound. I mean, you have cut wires that are live. And, when I was talking to Mitch, he was explaining to me, those lead pipes, those copper wires, they're conduits. They're conductors right there.
No, it's because they're getting ready for the future ghosts that they're going to make.
What was I thinking?
Now they can say, yeah, we actually had all 50 spirits here, all died.
They
electrocuted them.
Do they usually charge for
they
ghost
usually
investigations?
Do.
Okay.
So normally for Bobby Mackey's, it's between $600 and $700 for a 5-hour investigation.
Whoa, what? How much?
Well, and that's something else that, like, I even brought up on my page. And it's not just them. There's a place called Ripa Villa Plantation that, it's a gorgeous historical place. But they charge $500 or $65 per person, and you're supervised. Yeah.
By who?
They're home teams. But our investigation, we did not, for Bobby Mackey's, I have to tell you, when I told them what the fundraiser was for, we didn't have to pay that. All we had to do was pay for our security. And, they were phenomenal with helping us with this Wounded Warrior project. Whereas other places, and you've got to understand, some of these places are charging like an arm. I might as well just sell my liver because they're asking that much. And it's a shithole with nothing. And if you're going to be supervised, well, you know what? Your supervisor needs to kick me some ends because they're on my 3-hour tour. Get the fuck out. But unfortunately, people are buying into it. Until paranormal researchers say, you know what? I'm not doing this. Yeah. This is ridiculous. You're not getting this. People aren't going to drop those prices.
And I want to make it clear, like, we're not coming down on the owners of Bobby Mackey's. We're not at all.
We're just talking about what's the supposed...
We're talking about the claims that have happened and the conditions under which people are investigating and the issues that have come up with the claims. And that's what we do. And that's what we do anytime. Sometimes we're a little harsh when we do it, but we're actually attacking the claims.
Yes,
and
that's not started by Denise Mackey, and it's not started by Matt Coates.
Right.
And I'm not saying that there's nothing paranormal there. I don't know. I haven't reviewed. We've got 5 hours of data to review of a lot of stuff.
We were just addressing the problems.
But you know what? History is history.
Right.
And the historical claims are wrong. I have no problem saying that. And anybody can challenge me. That you can bring and tell me that, no, you're right, because I will say, one simple sentence. Where is your proof? Because I have mine. I've submitted it to you. I've given it to other people. It's in writing. Not mine, but from 1896 and 1897. That makes a difference.
Right. Yeah, you have the documents to back up what you're saying, which is great. That's what you're supposed to do.
I don't publish bullshit. That's not what I do.
But, so, hey, Lou, what do you think about, because Mellanie put this question up about paying to go to places, these locations charging a lot of money to come in and investigate. What's your take on that?
Well, in some locations you're going to have to, regardless. If you want to get, if you want to get into a certain spot, you're going to have to, unless... you can figure out a way how to skirt the security like yours truly has done many times.
That's the Mexican talking.
That's total.
But I don't agree with the high prices that they charge. I mean, when they start charging, what did you say, $500?
Some places. I know that other places, I've seen it up to $100 per person.
See, it's ridiculous. Really, because the majority of that in some locations, or in the majority of locations, that's not even going back to the site. That's going back to whatever team is conducting it. Right. So they can go up and buy more little, whoopty, rave lights for another investigation. There's one location that we're going to down here in California, that historic one that I mentioned to you, that I don't mention on the air. But all the money that we get from there goes back to the site. And it's only $25 to go in, right? But it goes to restoring that location. It's an old fort, and it's like Fort Mifflin. It goes completely right back into the location. But I really don't care for paying for these places because the majority of they just pocket it. They do nothing with it. There's really no need for them to be charging this kind of money.
Right. It's
That's the
pure
thing,
profit.
Though. It could be within reason. When you're asking an astronomical amount, and it's going towards the restoration, I understand that. But if you are charging a team to come in and do an investigation, and you're charging them that much, but they have to share that time with these other babysitters and investigators that are contaminating all of their data, that is ethically wrong.
I agree.
There's something wrong with that.
Yes.
Because then you need to lower the prices, because what their legitimate research is compromised. Now, you would be able to get more people in, or have a better fundraiser, or apply for grants to help towards these restorations, or even put it out like that, instead of saying, okay, well, we're trying to restore this location. We're charging $1,000 for 5 hours, and yet 2 years down the line, I see nothing restored. There's a problem.
I agree.
If it looks exactly the same as it did 7 months ago, and you have tour after tour after tour, then I have a right to say, where is all of this money going towards? Because you can't tell me it's for electricity, because these investigations are being done in the dark.
Well, yeah,
and they don't have heat.
I agree.
Yeah.
Where's the money going?
I'm freezing.
Yes. I almost froze my corneas off.
Oh my.
Yeah, I do say that sometimes, because, I'm the only female, and sometimes I'll look at people, like some of these males, and I'll say, dude, grow some balls. If you need a set, I'll loan you mine. One of those.
That's fun. I can't wait. One of these times we're going to come out and visit you, and we're
You've got to.
We're going to hang out. That's going to be fun.
And you're in Louisville, correct?
No. God, no. I am in...
Lie to me, Kenny.
Where?
Yeah, no, I'm in Clarksville. I'm right outside the gate of Fort Campbell.
So, we're not from there, so how far from Louisville are you?
Like, hours.
Hours? Like
Yeah.
2, 3, 4?
About 3.
3? We could do that, Lou. We could drive out there.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah,
And,
Bobby Mackey's was 5 hours from us.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
But I mean, I will say it was worth it. I have to tell you, the Bobby Mackey staff, Denise Mackey and Matt Coates and them, they're phenomenal people. They did everything that they could to raise money for the Wounded Warrior. Awesome. Matt he doesn't believe in all this stuff. He does understand that the history is wrong, and he said that actually pisses him off. There was a book written about Bobby Mackey several years ago that was released by the former Ghost Tours manager, that he said really, really upset Bobby Mackey's, because he said that he knew that it wasn't true. The problem is that shit sells.
Yeah.
Those stories sells. And when you're running the Ghost Tours and you're telling that shit, that's what's circulating. And it did upset him. So, they're not opposed to the truth being out there, but you have to understand this place was opened in 78. Stories really started hitting at about 1980, and here you have 2014. How do you go back and start saying, okay?
You're not.
You can't.
You're not, because like you said, that book is out. It has the stories in it, and that's what people, that's what I do. I go to
How
a
many
place.
people in 30 years have gone through there being told this story?
Yes, and how many websites have the owners have gotten that book and then just typed in, copied that story right out of the book and put it on their website, and that's what people see.
And this is this man's livelihood,
Right.
The problem is, it's a double-edged sword, because if there is in fact something paranormal there, then if the truth, everybody starts realizing this is not the real history, they're going to think that, okay, there's nothing there. They don't know, because they're still negating the fact that this over here is the real history, and it could possibly be the reasons why you guys are having this. You don't know.
Yeah.
It's almost like, I feel bad for them, because Bobby Mackey's is stuck in this rut where you either accept Johanna and Pearl Bryon or you don't. Because if you don't accept those for the last 30 years, that's what's been put out, it'll destroy that business. Yeah.
Well, maybe we can help, with our 4 or 5 listeners that we can help start spreading the word that, hey, the history is wrong that you know it. The popular history that you know is completely wrong. This is the other history, as told by Mellanie.
No, as told by records.
Told by records, narrated by Mellanie.
That's different, yeah.
And this is, if you want to continue doing your investigations, at least now you have the valid history to go with.
Yes. And the valid history is incredible. The mob ties that were there, it's insane. I talked to a man who was like in his 90s. I mean, he was just like at death's door. I wouldn't be surprised if he sneezed and kicked the bucket. He's that old. But he told me that, you know, back then, people are still afraid to talk now. Because back then you knew if you saw those big old gallon buckets and it's got cement in there, something else happened. They have bullet holes in the doors there. And I sent you a picture.
Yeah.
And those are actual real bullet holes.
Is that the one?
That's awesome.
Where like you're like reaching across and you're looking back and there's another guy in the picture?
We're measuring. One of them you can tell is a 20. I'm huge into weapons, obviously. But one of them's from a 22. Then there's one that we believe it might be either a 38. But, I mean, it's riddled in there, and it actually coincides with actual historical documentation of what happened there.
Cool. That's awesome. See that?
Yeah,
that's the kind of thing I'm interested in. I would love to read up on that more. Wow, that's cool.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
We're good. You got something, Lou?
No, go ahead.
Oh, so this is a show called Geeks and Ghosts. So we talked a lot about ghosts.
Yeah.
What about the geek side of you?
Oh, God.
Now, standard question.
Research, not it's a geek.
Standard question: Star Trek or Star Wars?
Oh.
You better pick right, or I'm hanging up on you.
I'm saying Star Wars.
Yes.
I wasn't a Trekkie. I really wasn't.
Yes. Screw you, Lou. That's 1-1 now.
Mitch got us last time.
Yeah, Mitch was on your side. Now
No.
I got Mellanie on my
never
side.
get onto the Star Trek thing.
Yay! Are you going to go see the new movies when they come out?
I probably will not.
Breaking my heart. Breaking
Yeah.
my heart.
Probably will not. Only because I don't like people. I'm just kidding.
Well, that's a good one. I mean, that's valid.
No, I just, crowded rooms like that, you know,
I understand you. I can
frustrating.
completely understand you after the first Gulf War for me. And I'm still that way to this day.
I just have a hard time. I like going when there's hardly anybody there, you know. It just, and then when people are just moving around behind me too much or it's really crowded, I can't do it.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I know how you are. That's why a lot of the times I like to be on my own. I just don't like being around a group of people, because that's too many people for me to keep an eye on at one time.
True story.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So what kind of geeky, nerdy things are you into? Are you any kind of nerd?
Do you like comic books?
I do not.
Do you like tacos?
I love them.
That's it. That's it. She's at the top of the heap now.
There you go. She recovered.
Yeah.
She beat out Mitch because he likes enchiladas, and this show's all about tacos.
No, I love tacos. You can't go wrong with you know what? The other day I put chicken and I made like some salsa and some fiesta sauce, and I slow cooked it all day so that my chicken just fell apart, and I made a taco out of that, and it was fucking delicious. You can't go wrong with tacos. I'm telling you, you go to LA and you go to King Taco, life will never be the same.
Oh wait, no, stop there. I don't care for King Taco.
Oh boy.
Oh my gosh.
When they first came out, King Taco was good, but as time has gone on, it's almost like they've added sugar to their meat. It's not the same anymore.
I haven't been there in like 8 years. I haven't been there. When I was there, that was the heat, man. It was fantastic. And any roach coach that has like a C grade on there, delicious.
Yeah, C grade, D grade. The worse the truck grade, the better it is.
Yes, dead serious.
Nice. So what do you do on your off time? What's your hobby besides ghost or the whole paranormal thing?
Dude, do I have one anymore?
What kind of...
I actually, I like shooting a lot. I go to the firing range.
Really?
I'm an expert marksman, so I like shooting. I like guns.
So we will stay on your good side.
Yes, you really should.
We will be nice to you.
Yeah. No, and I love food. I'm a foodie.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Favorite food? Favorite food?
Favorite food? Pomegranates.
Really?
Yeah.
What? Say that again?
Pomegranates.
Wow.
Oh, yes.
I don't think I've ever had one of those.
Yeah, they stain your clothes.
Yeah,
No.
they're delicious. That's why I have a specific shirt for it. And
They're big in Mexico.
I love Korean food. I make a lot of Korean food.
Nice.
Yeah, pomegranates are big in Mexico. You should try it one day, Ken. You'll like it, but
Yeah.
don't have any of your favorite clothes when you're wearing it.
The next time you come and stay in my basement for a week, you can get me some. We'll try
We're
it.
gonna eat a lot of those. Watch, when I come back, I'm bringing a bunch of those with me.
They're delicious. They are really, really delicious. But you can actually use them to enhance the flavor of foods and juices and stuff. They're just really good.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm hungry.
And when you're done eating one of those things, your face will look like you smothered
you
Kool-Aid
just-
powder all over you.
No, you look like it's awesome because I kind of scared my kids on Halloween. I just had like the mannequin thing and I lifted up and it looked like, I had like pomegranate juice all over me and everything else like that. So it's almost like Walking Deadish. Fantastic. Way to scar a childhood.
Yeah, they're awesome.
That's awesome. Do you have anything coming up? Anything you want to plug?
Not yet. Right now, we're reviewing data, and then I figured, I've been working on this Bobby Mackey's event for 6 months.
Yeah.
6 months. I mean, that's just every free time, research, and so I think we're going to take a little bit of a break for the holidays.
Good.
And then we're going to go back to the drawing board. We get a lot of calls and email submissions for people who having residential issues. And we don't instantly go in right away. We give them some, what we call telltale signs, things that they can do ahead of time. And then we'll go out and we'll offer this information or that information or this information. So we kind of have that going on too.
Nice.
Once we get through with this data review and I submit this report, then we'll go from there.
So are you into the crypto part of it as well?
Cryptozoology. Abso-fucking-lot.
What?
Abso-fucking-lot. Not that I don't believe in cryptozoology. My thing is that, look, if Nessie and Bigfoot want to be seen, who the fuck cares, man? I've got a deal.
What do you think about that, Lou? Lou? You still there? He's not talking to you now.
I'm sorry.
I'm right here.
lost?
1 second. I got a phone call.
Oh.
Okay.
What are you doing? We're recording a show and you're on the phone?
My question to you is, do you believe in aliens?
Aliens? Well, you know what? Here's my take. Aliens, to think and doubt that there is life on another planet somewhere else in a universe that is so expansive.
All right, I'm back.
Doubt that, I think, is just ignorance. To think that we're the only ones. Have they visited us? For that, I don't think so. I don't know.
Well, there's
but I
that
don't
saying.
think so.
What's that saying that goes?
You shut up. I'm not done talking.
If we're the only ones in the universe, that's amazing. But but if there's nothing else out there, that's even more amazing.
I mean, I think the closest planet that's in the Goldilocks zone, which is an Earth-like planet with the right conditions, I believe that's about 63 or 68 light years away. So you're going to need either like super awesome Star Wars type or Star Trek type vehicles, or you need to actually discover a real wormhole. Not fake ones in somebody's garage.
Remember, they've said that we're still at the young end of the universe. So what makes it what's not to say that there's another civilization that's out there that's even older than us by hundreds of millions of years.
Right.
Okay, so maybe they've already figured out how to do that kind of stuff to get from point A to point B quicker.
That would be
Maybe
great.
they already have that technology.
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
would be great.
Just because
the ones
we don't
in the
have
portal.
it doesn't mean nobody else can't have it.
I agree.
So
But I don't.
there's a possibility that, let's say that there is some alien race out there that has figured out how to get from here to there. You know, they just know how to do these things that we've yet to even figure it out yet.
So if they have this such advanced technology, which is totally possible, I really don't think they would get here and draw little symbols in our crops and then leave.
Well,
crop circles.
let's look at Star Trek, the last movie that they came out with. Did you see it?
I saw it.
Okay. Remember that primitive group
Yes.
that they ran into, and all they were doing was they were just using these primitive symbols. You know, all of a sudden here we are. Here comes Star Trek, the Federation. Here comes the Enterprise flying right over. That could be us. That could be us in that same aspect.
One, that was a movie.
No.
And
I'm
two,
no.
yes, they flew the ship over the people.
Yeah, but what I'm telling you is we could be those people.
We could. Well, our ancestors. Sure.
We could be those people in that movie, and the aliens are basically the ones in the Enterprise already.
But they didn't put their symbols in their crops. That would be gone in a week when we.
But
Yes, but
Collect-
you're talking to
crop circles
a
is
civilization that has
Yes, crop
basic
circles are a hoax.
communication. What?
Crop
Crop
circles
circles were
are
proven to be a hoax.
they're a hoax.
Well, we're not talking about crop circles. But we're talking about a primitive society that maybe that's the only way at that time they knew how to connect with them. Symbols,
Symbols.
drawings,
Pictographs.
whatever the case is. Maybe that was the only way they really could make any type of contact with them.
I can get that, but not random ones that didn't make
But
any
we weren't
sense.
there. You
right.
have to have that open. You can't just say, "Oh well, no, you just shut the door on it." No, there's a chance that that's exactly what it was.
Donna's over here on the side, just cracking up, laughing at us. What we're talking about. It's aliens. What do you what do you think, Mellanie? You're there with that weird look on your face, like, I don't know if I want to get into this conversation.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Now, I will say, you look back at things like Stonehenge and the Egyptians and stuff like that, and then you start remembering Alien versus Predator and stuff like that, and you're like, hey, this shit makes sense.
Oh, that's because we're smart.
Then my question is, where are they now?
Yeah, exactly. Where are they?
They know that the Earth is so viable, and they visited us then. Well, where are they now?
Well, I've always said that we are, and you understand what this is, that this planet is the Compton of the universe.
It really
You don't want
is.
to hang out at Compton, so you go in and you get out as quick as you can. And I think that's exactly what this planet is in the universe.
It
We
really
are that
is.
Compton.
They come here just for our tacos.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh.
All right, guys, we are at almost the 2-hour mark.
Yeah.
So let's wrap it. And it's almost midnight here, and I want to go to bed. So
Oh,
let us wrap this up. And it was great, Mellanie, having you on. I really appreciate you coming on.
yeah.
And,
No problem. Anytime.
telling us all about your experience and your research. It was great. I mean, it was really interesting. And all the stuff that you sent me, I'm going to go through it. I mean, I went through a lot of it already, but I want to read up on it because it just got me really interested. So
Yeah, and keep in mind, there's a lot of different stories that are being told about Bobby Mackey's. This is the correct history of what I've sent you,
yeah.
The other stuff, and I could only address so many claims. So
Yeah, exactly. And
there's so many.
you addressed the main claims that came out of there, which is good. I mean, that's what you want to do because they're the most famous. They're the ones that draw people in. So you wanted to address those, which you did, and you did, I think, phenomenally. So, wow, I actually said that without stuttering. So yeah, you did a great job, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I hope to see more awesome work from you.
From our team, yeah, we're I couldn't be prouder and have a better team, and I think that's something that we're really lucky. When you serve, there's this camaraderie that transcends that a lot of people don't understand, and it just makes you really cohesive, and it also eliminates a lot of that unnecessary drama.
Right.
So right. You'll definitely see more from us.
Good. And when you do have more events coming up, let us know so we can promote you guys and get the word out there to our 4 or 5 listeners.
Outstanding. Maybe they can come.
Yeah. And if Lou gets out here, or me and Lou go on this road trip that we hope to do one day across America, we will come visit, and we will cause a lot of trouble.
We already caused trouble.
We need to do a paranormal investigation in costume.
Ooh, I have a great costume.
I've been wanting to do that.
That would be fun.
I have a Yeti costume, or a Bigfoot costume. I would totally be Sasquatch.
Like a 5-foot tall Sasquatch.
Yeah. Then the real one will bust out through the forest, and he's going to violate both Candy and me.
I will uppercut you in the shin. It's not even funny.
Okay, short stack.
Thank you so much for having me and for taking the time to learn from me.
Awesome.
No, that's great. We love this kind of stuff.
I'm learning from you guys. Believe it or not, I'm one of your 4 or 5 listeners.
Yay!
Yippee!
Cool. Well, you have a good night, and
you too.
We will talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, you guys.
Okay.
All right. You have a good night.
You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Good. Whew. That was good.
Yeah.
That was real good. Man, that was interesting with all the history.
Yeah, I loved it.
And she knew her shit. Damn.
Yeah.
Like she wasn't even reading off of notes. She was just popping that shit out of her head.
Exactly.
Damn. Oy. We didn't even get to talk about our day or week. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, just pissed off over here because the reason we had these problems was the laptop I got won't load up, right? So, because it said, hey, you know how sometimes you get that little pop-up window says you got updates for the computer, just go ahead and update. So I updated it, and then it couldn't update it, so it says it's going to revert back to the old changes, and it's never gone back. It's just right here with the stupid screen.
Oh.
So while we were all talking, I was looking for services. I'm thinking, I got to take this into the shop tomorrow because it's bullshit. I'm pissed.
Wow.
But so then at first I tried going off the phone, my phone. That didn't work. That's why it was sounding, I guess, hollow or something.
Okay.
So then I jumped off to my iPod, and that's what I've been working on.
Wow. It sounds good now.
Well, yeah, because I was on the iPod.
Yeah, it sounded great. You should stay on that.
But I'm thinking, for some reason, it won't do 3-way, the video with 3 people on there. I don't know why. Maybe it's because the screen is just too small to handle it. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, well.
But it's okay. We'll get her on again, and we'll do full facials and stuff.
Yeah. All right, so let's wrap up the show. And I guess, do you have anything coming up? You have what do you have coming up? You were just at Comic-Con. We'll have to talk about that next episode.
Yeah, we've been missing some stuff lately because we've been having guests.
Next week we're gonna do. I think we should just focus on a geek episode and just do like Comic-Con and shit like that.
Well, next week I'm taking off to Vegas.
Oh.
So
well, you better find time to record.
Well, let me see. I'm leaving Thursday for Vegas. So
so good. We can record our usual night then.
Yeah, on Wednesday. So
good.
We should be good to go.
Good.
Like I said, I'm not working Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday of next week. So
good. All right. Well,
we could even do it during the day.
Yeah, I still have to work, dumbass.
You don't need to work. You haven't worked a day in your life so far, dummy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, we could do it earlier. Yeah, you're saying during the day, which would be my night. So, yeah. All right, good.
Well, we could do it during the day when it's your day as well.
There you go. All right, so that wraps it up for this episode, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. I hope everybody learned something, and learned, especially, I guess, the moral lesson of the day is to do your research.
Well, it comes back down to take nobody's word for it.
Yeah, and learn every day. That's our taglines. and she just demonstrated it perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. Do the research. Check out what find out all these claims of, these deaths and these people who supposedly were there, and they never were, apparently.
Yeah.
Because it seems that the two main ones were between 5 to 6 miles away from the actual location.
Right. They had absolutely nothing to do with the location.
Yeah, and I even Google Earthed her address. And it's by the river. Oh, wait, here you go. It's by the river, which means water.
Yeah.
Which means...
water is conductive and this and that. Whatever. Bullshit.
Her head's in the river, and her head somehow found its way to Bobby Mackey's into the well, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
Boom, we just discovered it. Again.
Yeah. Again.
So,
right.
that's what happens there. So,
all right. Next week we will continue our discussion and focus on geeky stuff, and we'll have some fun.
Yeah, hopefully by then we can talk about some Bigfoot stuff that's been going on, because it's been pretty
we gotta
interesting.
get to that. You're supposed to send me something.
Yeah, I didn't get to do it. So
I didn't get it.
I know, because I didn't get to do it.
Well,
shut up, bitch.
Freaking do it. All right.
You'll like it though.
See you later, everybody.
And your woman will love you even more for it.
Oh, now I'm intrigued.
Yes.
And so is she. She's smiling now. Because she can hear what you're saying.
Yes, our groupie. Okay. Our groupie in the room.
There we go. We got a fan.
That's right.
Who's in studio.
Yeah, exactly.
It's my stalker. All right. So that's it for the show. I'm going to stop recording in 3, 2, 1.